I am Simon Bonobo. I'm gonna show you how I put this track together. It's called Nightlite off a new album called Days to Come, and just sort of outline how I've approached mixing, with the recording strings and drums and various bits and pieces and vocals, and just how the track was put together by kind of taking it apart and showing you how that was done. Okay, well, I guess the stuff I use a lot, this is the whirly, which kind of features quite a lot, especially on this record. And these little things, this is actually made from a guy in Brighton. He makes a violin maker, and he made about 3 of these, and there's a little percussion shop, and it's just a nice little weird little lap harp. I've put it through, I'll put a pickup on it and put it through the amp. It's real nice effect. This thing I use for the live show. I don't really do much on it on the studio. It's just a way of triggering the sounds and sort of the electronic aspect of the live show. So that's kind of what that is. Again, the Rhodes, this is kind of one of the first nice bit of kits that I got when I really sort of something I wanted for a long time. But having said that, this Nord stage has got some really good Rhodes sounds on it. So I'm kind of favouring this now over the Rhodes, just using the whirly, and this like the piano modelling and the Rhodes modelling on here is really good. Plus the sort of it's really sort of hands-on effect, so you can just get good sounds really quickly. So I'm going to actually kind of strip some of this stuff down and just have that and that. And then over here, this is the sort of front end stuff that I use. So the Avalon, which is just like a mono preamp and EQ and compressor, which is really nice, especially for vocals and horns, and it's just to drive things really hard, and it sounds good. Likewise with this, except in stereo, slightly kind of cheaper than that one, but again really good for mixing stereo parts like horns and strings. Motu kind of controls the whole thing, and it's Lexicon, which is a really sort of nice standalone reverb, which I sort of bust through to various bits and pieces, patch bay, etc. This is just my controller board. This is like the first keyboard I bought, and this is the thing I've been controlling everything with ever since. I don't use the sounds on it much these days because they're a bit tinny. And then the desk, again, this is something I'm gonna scale down, because I used to use more kind of outboard samplers. So I used to have like a S950 and then an Akai, but now I'm pretty much using everything just in Logic, so the desk is kind of redundant. I'm only just using the stereo channel, so I'm going to get rid of that and maybe switch it for a controller, like a Mackie controller, and then and other than that, monitors. Some friends of mine used to work with these with B&W, so I've got a nice discount on them, which is quite good. And then just other little bits, really, just kind of melodicas. This little Casio fellow, which is quite good. You can put him through an amp, and he sounds really good. Yeah, and other than that, just loads of little gadgets, and there's a ukulele and little things and ocarinas and bits and pieces. So and that's kind of it. I mean, there's a double bass in the other room, but you kind of know what that looks like. So that's kind of it, really. Okay, well, this is a track off the new record called Nightlite. So I was going to pull this apart and show you how it was built up. So first off was just this guitar part. Just kind of came from that, but more of a which that's basically the sort of the main starting point. But I played that on a nylon. Which is basically just tambourine, some other little parts. Again with the bass line. Which is just so it's kind of like moving away. I mean, I used to do more with samples, but I think, like, especially for this record, I've done a lot more just sort of trying to play things in and record things properly, so you have more scope for I then find working with samples you get sort of constricted to what's available, but I still use some aspects of sampling, but I think that the main core of what I'm trying to do now is just to, you know, build the backbone of something and sort of write it out first. But that's so it's basically those three things together, plus the drums, which as a sample break from something or other. That's the way I've done that. It's just an intro drum break from something. I shouldn't be playing like that. So it's a kind of almost like a sort of Motown-y thing that I then just edited over here, just with these little chops. And that's kind of the basics of it, and then yeah, with the keys, it's just except that's on the whirly actually. And the violins were by a fellow called Mike Simmons, that we recorded just in here on that mic, just with these string parts, which I then spread out in Contact. I just mapped them out. So they're just being triggered. And this vocal is by Bajka, she's on 4 tracks on the album. I sent her this track as an instrumental and she started working on the vocals, and then she came around here for a few days and we recorded all 4 tracks. It was in this room, hanging like just this thing really. It's like I don't know what it is, some sort of just a big cloth in the corner of the room with this mic, and just recorded the whole thing in here through the Avalon, and then yeah, and that's that part, and then it moves into the second part of this thing. It sort of breaks into these hammers. And the way I got that sound was again with the whirly. I'll show you. I actually took the lid off it. Shall I do that? Shall I yeah, I did it. So yeah, basically took this whole thing apart, and you get some really interesting sounds from just on it. Then need to unscrew it. I'm just going to find a screwdriver. The whole thing off. That's 3 screws rather than 2. Bit of an odd thing to do with such a kind of nice instrument. Something sticky. So yeah, so you take the lid off this, and there's all these, underneath this metal platform, there's all the hammers, and put in a pair of, I use a matched pair stereo mics in there so you get some stereo imaging, and then and that's just a really nice, stop sounding like a piano and start sounding like something more kind of African kalimba. Which is the part that over here. Taking kind of like loads of this stuff and chopping it up. Yeah, and that's how that sound's come about. It's just kind of using unconventional ways of recording conventional instruments. I guess it's the same with you know, guitars as well. There's some strange things you can do with that. And from there, I was just building up sounds on top of it, like the xylophone, which that kind of thing. So then you got the xylophone line. Bit of delay on that as well, just to give it that sort of odd mixing delay as well. Also gives it a slightly wider sound using stereo. So if you've got one part of delay on one side, it sort of pings about, kind of stops sounding like a xylophone a bit more like something else. And then bringing a sort of descending bass line in it. Sound if you sort of double up your bass from like a sub bass and then also kind of more acoustic bass. It just gives it a really big texture. You got the sub taking care of the low end and then the texture coming from the piano. And then bringing the strings in. this is kind of the breakdown part of this track, where it kind of changes into a sort of slightly different progression. Sort of bringing in more percussion on contact again, which is just from sort of Bajka records. And somewhere yeah, so again it's just building up the percussion layers in contact, and then it kind of it sort of builds up to this string arrangement. And these strings were recorded here as well, same guy. Basically what happened there was it was 2 violas and a violin, and I layered them up. I actually did it in a separate page, again through the Avalon. But I arranged them on a separate window, just so you can have a sort of a dedicated arrange page just for the strings, so you can really sort of work on them. I'll see if I can find it. Yeah, there we go. Strings. Yeah, so these are the strings. Basically, I just layered them up, starting at the bottom with. Well, actually, how I first arranged these was to I'm going to play the progression on a mellotron simulator. I just open it up. Yeah, this thing, which has got some kind of nice sounds, but it's good for just building up sort of quick string arrangements. So that's how they're written, and this is basically a case of playing the parts in with the strings. So recording one take on that side, and the same line over on that side. So it already sounds like a full sound, and then the same with the other. There's three different lines. So there's a second violin. Viola down the bottom. And then finally a cello. And then in terms of mixing, have everything panned from both lines, panned either side, and then it's just a case of sort of isolating and just using your ear just to. If you EQ everyone slightly differently, it's going to sound, it's going to give depth to the arrangement. So it's going to sound like they're not all from one position. It sounds like it's going to actually put some space, so it sounds like however many it is, 8 different instruments. and that's done just through slight bits of EQing. It's taken off the low end of something to make it sound a bit further and bringing up the EQ in the middle, just to kind of give every instrument a slightly different texture, which is a nice effect of making it sound like a whole sort of ensemble. And then put the whole mix through here, through this compressor. So it's taking it out to, so this is all patched in. So that's now coming through here. Likewise with the other side, it's coming through here. So the whole stereo mix is now being bounced through this, which means you can really drive the sound a bit more. Basically get the sort of stereo mix through there and compress it, and then bounce it all into one, and then back to the other page, and then just import that into the track. Okay, so vocals on this track.
Make our waves, yes we do.
So I've done, again I recorded these in here on this mic, and it's a really kind of basic way of doing it. It's just getting this sort of throw, or whatever this thing is called, and just draping it in a corner in a sort of V shape. So I just hung it behind the door there, and just to, I think it just sort of deaden the background, so we had that thing hanging, the mic just in front of it. And then it came in through the Avalon with just a little bit of compression on, because it's better to, if you make mistakes when it's going in, then there's nothing you can do. So there's a slight bit of compression just to get rid of any huge kind of peaks, and also take about 70 Hertz off the very bottom to any sort of outside rumble or sort of foot tapping and sort of grabbing hold of the mic stand. And then the process in terms of comping, she's actually a really good vocalist and just kind of just nailed things in one take. So all I had to do was just to EQ it, again taking off a little bit of the very bottom, but I found her voice that sort of most of it is in that sort of 1K range. So I'll play it without, and then if you're able to pick it up, and then
Weather is in style to keep the hope. We tread these waters, make our waves, yes we do.
And just bringing up that 1K.
Peaceful shall proceed,
that sort of just gives it a bit
in
more
every
space.
single way. Weather.
And then using the Renaissance compressor, like quite a lot of compression, like actually loads of compression. So that's it.
Weather is in style to keep the hope. We tread these waters, make our waves, yes we do.
Kind of driving.
Peaceful shall proceed.
And then reverb. I just made a plate reverb in this Space Designer. A kind of big but short reverb. So there's quite a lot of it, because the rest of the track is quite sort of energetic, and it sounds like it's quite sort of a big sound, so her vocal sounded very kind of sort of superimposed, so I had to sort of bring that back a little bit with the reverb and make it sound, make it sort of sit in the mix a bit better.
Weather is in style.
So that's it, just the raw vocal.
Whether it's in style to keep the hope, we tread these waters.
And then with the compression, reverb and EQ.
Whether it's in style to keep the hope, we tread these waters, make our ways, yes we do.
And yeah, I kind of pretty much stored their settings because it was all in the same, you know, I spent a lot of time working on this one track and then just moved all the settings over and applied them to the others and just sort of tweaked it a little bit as needed. But you know, I think each voice is kind of has its individual tones and peaks, so this seems to work quite well, and it sits. And the only difference over here is it's just louder, really. Yeah, I just brought the level up slightly for that, where everything's kind of, you know, where it's all going on at the end. That's our guitar performance, I guess. And again, that's it's just playing a fairly sort of straightforward riff on. It's just kind of messing about. That's something a thing I use quite a lot. Of just playing around in the same tempo in the same key, and then really zooming in. Really zooming into the parts. So maybe what I started out with was. Fairly shoddy guitar playing, but then you know, you can just really, I guess, kind of glitch it up a little bit by just chopping into the waveform, finding little notes that just sound good on their own, or there's little kind of incidental phrases. So maybe those two together. Just finding rhythm in that, and messing about with it until there's something that sounds like a finished kind of riff. But also quite weird because it's, you know, chopped up and it's not actually. All the decays and the attacks are all gone. So it sounds kind of odd. Also something that doesn't necessarily make sense like that. Once you sort of put the percussion back on it, kind of. That's the way that ends.